Short of freak accidents like extreme mechanical failure, all motorcycle crashes are a culmination of bad riding techniques and survival reactions. Survival reactions are the things we do automatically in response to situations where we feel stress, fear, and anxiety while riding our motorcycles. When something flies at your face, your eyelids instinctively close to try to protect your eyeballs before you consciously understand what the hell is happening. That's a survival reaction, or SR for short. The eyelid thing sounds pretty useful, but on a motorcycle, survival reactions are far more likely to cause a high side than to protect you from it. I'm Alex, and in this video, I'm going to teach you the 7 different survival reactions and some squid tips on how to unlearn and avoid them. Stay tuned.
Whether for a real or an imagined reason, anything that triggers one of the above survival reactions is an attempt to reduce or avoid injury. None of them work in harmony with machine technology or rider control.
Have you ever seen someone about to crash their bike and then somehow the rider is just fucking ejected from it and something amazing happens? The bike just stabilizes and keeps going on its own. That's because motorcycles are amazing feats of engineering, and if motorcycles are super stable on their own, but somehow when we ride it, it just occasionally gets really unstable, well, by process of elimination, we probably need to start looking inward. Motorcycles only have 2 contact points to the ground, the front and the rear tire. So all the weight of the bike and all the things attached to it like saddlebags or you is focused on those 2 points. The part of the tire that's physically connected to the road at any moment is called the contact patch. It's important to notice that motorcycle front and rear tires aren't the same size. Rear tires are almost always noticeably larger, providing a bigger contact patch and better connection to the road. Well, with that laid out, I'm going to ask a couple questions and go ahead and try to answer them in your head. To optimize stability of the motorcycle, how should weight be distributed between the 2 tires? Should it be even, 50-50 between the 2 tires, or should it favor the front or the back? When riding a motorcycle at a steady speed, how is the weight distributed between your 2 tires? How do you, the rider, shift the weight to the front or to the rear of the motorcycle?
Place your bets now.
Hurry up! Put up or shut up! Ha ha! Hurry on the bit! Hurry on the bit!
Betting end.
For optimum bike stability, weight should be distributed based on the size of the contact patch of the tire. When we're riding at steady speeds, like when we're coasting or when you're just applying a little bit of gas to maintain your speed, the weight is about equalized between the 2 tires. The rule of thumb for motorcycles is that the larger rear tire wants about 60% of the total load, leaving 40% to the front. We, the riders, are able to control the weight distribution with a throttle, brake, and body position. To get weight to the rear, we need to be accelerating. To get weight to the front, we have to be slowing. And how we position our bodies on the bike impacts how a large portion of the total weight of the bike is distributed. Now that you understand what the optimum weight distribution is and how you have full control over that distribution, we're ready to examine how survival reactions cause us to destabilize our bikes. First survival reaction is rolling off the throttle rapidly, also known as chopping the throttle, because the action kind of looks like you're chopping up veggies for a nice stew.
Baby, you got a stew going.
It's very easy and normal to build habits of chopping the throttle in emergency situations, and for that same reason, it can be very hard to unlearn that. The reason chopping the throttle is dangerous is because when you do that, you cause the bike to decelerate rapidly. Rapid deceleration shifts the weight to the front of the motorcycle, to the tire that only expects 40% of the total weight. This sudden shift greatly destabilizes the bike, which increases the chances you'll exceed your front tire's traction, and so the contact patch's ability to grip the road. Another problem with SRs, which will become clear as we go, survival actions lead to instability, which leads to more survival reactions, which leads to more instability, until you layer down. If you chop the throttle, it's probably because you were going too fast in a situation. Often it's going to be a corner. To prevent SR1, you have to use good motorcycle riding techniques like slowing way down before turns. On public streets, ensuring that you're properly scanning and detecting potential threats around you will prevent you from getting surprised and triggering the SR reaction. If you watch videos of people riding motorcycles at high speed, doing wheelies, going over rough terrain, you'll notice that even though the front end of the bike shakes or finds its way out of alignment, it almost always realigns itself. This automatic stabilization is a feature of motorcycle design and physics. Like I said, amazing engineering. But when we grip the bars tightly, we fuck this up by damping what the front end naturally wants to do and we transfer more of those forces to the rear of the bike with our bodies. This can lead to crashes when the bike otherwise would have saved itself. You can do a controlled experiment by gripping the bars hard, like really hard. Get on them as long and as often as you can, especially while going over speed bumps or shitty roadways. I'll wait here for you to go try it. I didn't actually take a break. This was just for dramatic effect. Notice how when you grip the bars really hard, you start to feel every imperfection and bump in the roadway, and how much more your body shakes around on the bike. Gripping too hard can also affect your vision and perception of speed, making you feel like you're going faster than you are, which leads to other survival reactions like chopping the throttle. To maximize stability, we have to try to input to the bars as little as possible. Riding straight ahead, this isn't much of a challenge. You can lean forward on a street bike and just put your body on a tank, straight up if you're in a dual sport, or lean back on your sofa if you ride a lazy boy. But in a corner, especially if you're being a good street lossy like I am and going way too fast, it can be very easy to put weight on your arms during the cornering process. Here's a simple test to see if you're weighting the bars too much. In a corner, try giving your elbows a little wiggle. If you can flap around like a baby bird, you're good. If not, you need to adjust your body position so that you can hold yourself up with your legs and your core. To do this, get about fist distance between your crotch and the tank. Then grip the tank with your inner thighs and lower part of the bike with your feet. From this position, you can lean your body without needing to hold yourself up with your arms. Try the elbow flap in a corner at about 75% speed, and you'll begin to understand what it takes to prevent SR number 2. You can break down SR3, 4, and 5 individually, but I think they're easier to understand collectively. That's because they're all directly connected to a resource we have and utilize when riding our motorcycles.
Attention! Do I have your attention?
Most of the time, you're probably focused on the road directly ahead of you, in your immediate field of vision. Closest to that is our peripheral vision, 45 to 120 degrees outside of this main field of view. After that, you're probably checking your mirrors to assess if anything interesting is happening behind you. And if you're a hyper-vigilant rider like I am, you are head checking every time you change lanes to make sure nothing is in your blind spot. We spend our attention to focus on each of these points, and doing so comes at a sacrifice of attention and so lowered focus on the others. And that's how SR3, 4, and 5 are connected, because they impact where and how we focus our attention. When we panic, our vision can narrow and become erratic as it searches for something to focus on, which might not necessarily be anything important. This narrowed vision, also known as tunnel vision, and hunting behavior is SR3, and it can prevent you from putting your focus where it's most needed in a critical moment. When our vision narrows, we tend to focus our attention on something in our immediate field of vision, which could be a street sign, a telephone pole, or a car going the other direction. This laser focus of attention on something other than where we need to go to safely navigate a situation is SR4, and it's often referred to colloquially as target fixation. When we ride our motorcycle, unless we consciously choose to steer somewhere else, we tend to steer where we're looking, which is SR5. Steering at the wrong thing is bad, of course, but sometimes in a panic, what we might do is literally nothing. It can be so confusing to see this in real time, especially for people who don't ride motorcycles and haven't experienced it before, but this is how you get motorcycles hitting pedestrians in nearly empty streets. In that moment of stress or anxiety, our brains may just tell us to freeze. And that's SR number 6. And just like with any other decision in life, failure to make a choice is a choice. It's the choice to continue in whatever direction you and the bike are going, which might not be the roadway. So I'm guessing now you see how the limitations of our attention connect to each of these survival reactions. In a panic moment, our vision narrows, SR3, leading us to fixate on a target in our immediate focus, SR4, which we will naturally steer toward, SR5, that is if we don't just freeze, SR6. So how do you ensure we have control of our attention so that we're making conscious, rational choices in how we ride our motorcycles? Well, there's a simple way and a hard way.
The choice is yours.
Well, I don't think you and I will be doing anything any kind of way.
Okay, I see you choosing the hard way.
The simple way is to just slow down in pretty much any situation. Survival reactions affect our perception of speed, distances, and lane angle. Taking things slow allows you to feel like you always have enough space and time to consider everything happening around you, which prevents panic and SRs. The cost of this simple solution is that you aren't really becoming a more skilled rider, you're just becoming more of a conservative rider. Motorcycle communities everywhere are filled with riders who had close calls or crashes early in their riding career and decided to just ride more conservatively, which is why slowing down is the most common advice you'll hear from other riders. This might sound like an insult at first, but here's the thing. Lots of people choose the simple route, and it keeps them alive and riding their motorcycle for years. Maybe even just long enough to gain the experience so that they don't have these SRs. But here's my thing. I didn't buy a $24,000 1 of 500 Super Sport to ride fucking slow. I want to ride fast because that's way more fun for me, and I know I'm not the only one. To avoid SRs while riding fast requires understanding good riding techniques like what we've been talking about here, and practicing those techniques so that they become your default reflexive actions instead of panic and the survival reactions that come along with it. Speaking of riding techniques, if you want more great information about motorcycles, you should like and subscribe now. You know, you don't want to forget. You'll probably like my Accident Now series where I take people's motorcycle crashes and break them down to all their little errors in excruciating detail.
This one actually hurts just watching. Everybody was just chilling and then this happened.
We started with SR1, poor throttle control, and now we'll end with SR7, poor braking control. Like the throttle, brakes have the ability to rapidly shift the weight distribution of your motorcycle. It's painful to see how many inexperienced riders go down when something unexpected happens, like a car pulling out in front of them, and they just grab a fistful of front brake as hard as they can, which leads to laying her down. Another complex aspect of motorcycle dynamics is that the spinning of the rear tire creates gyroscopic forces that actually stabilizes the back of your motorcycle. There's a couple ways to demonstrate this, but the one I think best shows the stabilization effect is when you spin a wheel and secure it on just one side. Instead of hanging limp, the gyroscopic forces can stabilize the wheel vertically. That's pretty wild shit, right? When the bike slows down and so the rear tire spins slower, it's important to realize that you are reducing those stabilizing forces too. Heavy braking can also lead to tires losing connection with the roadway in the form of a skid. A skid reduces braking forces because your contact patch loses connection with the roadway, creating a similar instability as chopping the throttle with rapid weight shifting. A skid at the rear can lead the back of your bike to coming around from behind you, and if it regains traction at some point, can suddenly push the bike in a totally different direction than wherever the hell the front tire is pointing. Mastery of efficient braking is another complicated topic, but what is absolutely universal is that all braking should start light and get heavier as needed, and then finish light again. Slowly applying the brake reduces the impact of that shift of weight, lowering the impact of destabilization. You should absolutely take some time with your bike in a controlled space to practice using different amounts of brake pressure at different speeds and at different angles. This brings us to some spicy questions I've been wanting to talk about. Is braking in the quarter ever correct? And can it be done safely? You know that rapid deceleration shifts the weight to the front of the motorcycle, to the tire that only expects 40% of the total weight. You know that slowing the rear reduces stability from gyroscopic forces. But another thing that happens when you decelerate specifically in a corner is that the bike naturally stands itself up, pushing you to the outside of the turn, which potentially puts you on a course somewhere off the roadway. There are times, though, where if you've made other bad decisions prior, you might need to make a significant adjustment to your riding direction while in a turn. To do this though, you need to quickly stand the bike up, execute your slowing maneuver, flip the bike back over into a better line, and smoothly roll on the throttle to transfer that weight back to the rear. Even laid out in its most basic form, it doesn't sound easy because it isn't, and it has its own risks. That's why I don't blame anyone when they simplify the answer to just don't fucking do it. So there they are, all 7 survival reactions. SR1, chopping the throttle. SR2, tightening the bars. SR3, a narrowed field of view. SR4, fixed attention, target fixation. SR5, steering at our fixed attention point. SR6, inaction. And SR7, braking errors. I'm stoked that you took the time to learn this stuff because wrapping my brain around it has made me an incalculably better rider, and it will do that for you too. I have a selfish reason, which is that you are going to be one less person who ends up on Reddit complaining about how they crashed and son of a bitch, there was just nothing you could have done about it. If you're still kind of loose on other motorcycle concepts like counter steering and tank slappers, then Your next step is to go check out my videos on those, which are going to be linked in the top. Before you go though, you should share this video with somebody who you like, who rides a motorcycle that you don't want to die, because lots of people have not been exposed to these concepts and ideas. Click the like button, subscribe, click the bell, and until next time, ride fast and take chances.